So Frank, when these sessions were happening, is this something that went on all day and over weeks, or how?
No, I I only did that session. I would guess there probably was at least 2 other sessions before or after. I really didn't know what the devil I was doing that night, except to record them. Didn't know why I was recording them, and until Bob showed me this album, that's the first time I saw that I was part of it. So that's the way it goes with a big company. They don't tell you everything.
One little note about this album is it's very hard to come by. It wasn't generally released in the United States, it's an import, and it's also unfortunately a collector's item, and I believe the current collector's price is going up for $100 for this album.
Wow.
Yeah, see that?
And it's a CD, it's not even an LP. How can a CD be $100?
It's crazy. Yeah.
So when you say session, you mean that when the people gather together, the musicians and the producer and the engineers gather together to record 1 song, 2 songs?
No, in those days, Musicians Union had to record 4 tunes in the 1 3-hour session. And you know, sometimes you really had to work hard to get them done because of many problems, goofs and whatever. But so I only did that, and I don't know how, well, I did 2 sessions. So it took me 2 sessions to do 5 tunes, different nights. And that's the first I heard of it. When Bob brought it to my attention, I had no idea that it was released, and so it's interesting.
And are you doing overdubs and splicing? Or?
I didn't do anything except the live recording of those tunes. There was no splicing or overdubs.
How about on other albums?
Oh, and other albums, of course, they were done, sure.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Sometimes, well, I'll give you a real bad example. Barbra Streisand wanted to do a foreign language album, French, Spanish, Italian, whatever, and it took us quite a number of sessions, and we did it. And then it took quite a number of hours to splice it together so that everything sounded good. And when the tape went around, it was all white almost. And I got a telephone call from her on a Saturday morning, and she said, "I'm going to sue you." I said, "Barbara, go ahead. What have I done? That book that was written, and you said that it took forever to get those tunes resolved. That's not true." I said, "Look, the lawyer can call me, I don't mind. But before he does, you go ask CBS to show you the worksheets and the hours that was involved." So I never heard again from her. I was polite. Stories run pretty hard with Barbra Streisand.
That was a nice one, actually. Yeah, that was a nice one.
So on these sessions, you said they would start at, you would get into work at 8 in the morning. Was Miles doing 8 in the morning sessions?
Miles mostly recorded 10 o'clock in the morning,
Really?
10 to 1,
Really? Huh.
except for the other one that we're going to play. That was with the orchestra,
Okay,
and that came later.
now let's proceed ahead here. The next one we're going to listen to is the Ray Conniff Singers. This is an album called It's the Talk of the Town. And here's the back of it. We're only showing it because there's the picture of Ray, and by golly, there's that studio monitor again. Look at those little headphones that they're using. That's got to be just to communicate with you rather than...
Yeah, Yeah.
He's not listening to overdubs
Yeah,
or,
well, he was conducting and also arranging. He was busy. He also sing along with Mitch. I don't know how many folks caught him on television for years. Became such a big recording hit. Mitch, every one of them was a gold record, 16 of them. And he wanted to do his, but he didn't want to sound natural like Mitch Miller's group. So we talked about doing something different. I said, well, tell me what it is that you want to do different. Well, he said, I want feel the rhythm. I want the rhythm to be different. The singers are going to sound the same probably, but I want that background to be different. So we spent quite an hour or so developing it with different sounds, equalizing, echoing, did everything. And finally we settled on this particular, and you have to listen to the opening, and you'll hear it on the drums mostly. So let's see if you can.
all right? And then it continues on.
Yeah, did you notice that opening?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what he decided, that's what he liked, and every album that we did had to give him that same sound.
One thing you said when you were talking about that, you spent quite a while on this, an hour. I mean, you worked fast in those days. You had a finite amount of time. You had
Oh,
your
yeah.
4-hour union session, and you got to get it done.
That's right, because like I said, 4 tunes in 3 hours, you spend an hour, that means 2 hours. And, but you know, those days, people were more relaxed than they are today, I'm afraid. So the singers hung around, they went out and had coffee, did whatever they wanted until they were necessary to come back. And he was happy. They were rather large selling albums. I don't know today anyway, but whether anybody knows or hears them, but
Oh, yeah.
they were big sellers then.
So here's how you would do the layout of the people.
Oh, yeah.
The rhythm section stayed pretty much the same. That was
Yeah.
your standard feature.
That was mine.
That's how you did the rhythm section.
Yep.
And you set the people on a riser, a flat riser,
Yeah, somewhat like that.
about 18 inches tall, with 2 mics in the middle, one pointing to the men and one pointing to the women.
Yeah, just a
And,
single mic for each one of them.
Yeah.
And the great thing, and of course Ray made sure, we would listen, just the singers, to get their balance correctly. And once he was happy with it, that's when we would record.
Okay. And again, not very many microphones.
No,
It's pretty
no,
straightforward.
I didn't believe in multi-microphones.
I'm trapped back here, so I can't get over there, so you'll have to ask for me. Were the singers facing each other?
Were the singers facing each other?
Sure. Boys on the one side, ladies on the other. Yeah.
They couldn't
The
help but hear each
microphone
other
above
then.
them, maybe about as high above them.
But you could hear how it was panned hard left and
Hard
right,
pan, yeah.
so I'm not sure which side the women were.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that's not probably very easy to see back there, Dan's gone to a lot of trouble to put little arrows on here, and arrows point out the positions of the microphones and the direction they're facing. And in the case of the women and the men, you've got 8 facing to the left and 9 facing to the right. And if you look
Number 8.
closely at all the diagrams, you'll find a little microphone mark and which way it's facing. part of when we were asking questions is, how did you manage the bleed? And how did you use the bleed in the microphones, which is what helped you get away without having a room mic or mics.
What were the reverbs and echoes you were using?
Good question.
What?
What were the reverbs and echoes? How did you accomplish
Okay,
echo and reverb? The space is 100 by 100
yeah.
by 100, so there's some there.
As I said earlier, I did use the room itself for echo. And there were a period of time that Mitch Miller and myself decided, let's try something else. So we did, we again experimented. We had an empty storeroom down in the basement. It was all concrete. Opened that door, nobody ever looked in. I never looked in. I opened the door. I thought, hey, this might be good. We get rid of the garbage that was in there. And we experimented. Different microphones and speakers, positioning and whatever. And once Mitch was happy, that's the way we left it. Never changed it. And so that echo room, we then fed the output to another tape machine and ran the tape machine at the same time. So what went on to the finished tape was the output of that tape machine. It had a little tail to it, T-A-I-L, rather than just echo and it goes. So that's what we did.
And how big was this reverb chamber? Was it a big space like this?
Oh, no, not this big at all.
How big was it? Was it like,
Well, I don't know. I don't think we ever measured it, but if my mind is somewhere near it, I would say it was a 10 by 12 or 12 by 12 room, but it was solid concrete. I mean, nothing else. And we spent time, putting the mic in the speakers until we thought we had it the way we wanted it. And we never changed it.
so just to recap, you've got a room, an echo chamber, plus you're taking that and putting it through a tape machine to give you a delay to
Yeah.
then feed that echo back in later into the song. And we're gonna play that last song again here, so you can hear that thing, because it's especially prominent on this.
Frank, do you recall the tape speed that you used for the echo chamber return?
15 inches per
It was 15.
second.
Okay, thanks.
So we'll listen to that again and listen to the echo on this and how there's a gap between the end of their song and when this echo kicks in. It's especially noticeable on the women's voices to my ear. You can really hear that gap and then the echo kick in. That was your trademark there.
Yeah, and because more on the women, they have that high tones and that excited to tape a whole lot more.
But that tape delayed echo was a trademark of yours
Yeah.
essentially. And a lot of people heard it and wondered how you did that.
By luck. No, that's how we did it. We worked at it. We had, I have to say, Mitch Miller, people laugh at him when he was conducting and all that, but the man was a brilliant oboist. He was the #1 oboist in this country.
Wow.
Classical music man. And he made the pop scene in New York City happen by what we do. He signed artists that no one knew, and we would work on getting a sound. Not everyone has a big voice, so we took the time. Once you get it down, And the rest of it is easy. You can go on forever, which we did. So, Johnny Mathis, Streisand, Tony Bennett, every one of them had to help. Andy Williams became a big star once he came to our label. I have recorded him earlier with a label called Cadence that was owned by Arthur Godfrey. And he liked what I did. And his contract came up and said, what should I do? I said, come over to Columbia if you want. Oh, I said, well, if you give me permission, I'll talk to Mitch Miller and he'll call you. And that's what we did. And Mitch called him, signed the contract, and he went all the way. And he's still out there on television. I don't know about recordings, but interesting period of time.
Okay. Oh, and this isn't that session, but it shows how they recorded choruses. This is the West Side Story chorus. One microphone above.
Yeah. Actually, I think, I could be wrong, but I would think that was an overdub. When they were finished and they still had time, they would just record that group. That's what it looks like to me.
Okay. All right, our next piece that we're going to listen to is from the Miles Davis, Gil Evans collaboration, Porgy and Bess. And here's the notes to the CD booklet, and a little blow-up of the notes showing that our favorite engineer got a credit. In those days, they weren't giving credits. You can look at a lot of albums that Frank did, and you won't see his name anywhere on it. So it's cool that they're doing that. And you see the instrumentation on here, and if you look closely there, you'll see there's no piano. This is all...
This is one of the rare times that Miles recorded with an orchestra. And the arranger, Gil Evans, a super arranger, conductor, great talent. We could not start like we do usually with just Miles and his boys. They had to rehearse because of some of the chord structures and whatever was so different that they had to go through the arrangement before we could record. And so that I found that interesting because, well, it was Miles, and I thought, well, now I wonder how he's going to play. Well, he did as usual, best. It's great. It's a great album. I don't know how many people have heard it, but it's a great album. I'm happy to be part of it.
And we're going to listen to track 5, Summertime.
One thing about this one, listen to how the instruments build and how instruments are added as we go along.
that cool or what?
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting album. Very well scored and played. And Miles Davis, the only trumpet player I know that has that sound when he puts that mute into the horn. He had, like everything else he did, he had tested so many different mutes, and that one, he never used another one. And it's his sound, no matter where he may be playing, that's it. And you can see some of it, and we're missing the rhythm section, but it's back here somewhere.
And we couldn't quite figure that out, so there was no diagram of that.
Yeah,
We
no.
have to go by this picture.
Yeah. And that's Gil Evans over there. There's two woodwinds,
Two French horns.
and the rhythm
there, two
section's
French
in
horns.
there between them.
And there's some bones there. Miles here, of course.
Yeah, yeah, you see the bones.
Yeah. But where everybody else is, we're not real sure. But incredible. And here's one more session picture that we found of, this is the sheet music to Prayer. And My Man is Gone Now. My Man's Gone Now during the session.
Do we have another tune we're gonna play, or did we play both?
We're only going to play one for that one.
Oh, okay,
So our next one
yeah.
is Tony Bennett. I left my heart in San Francisco. And
This is one of my very favorite people in the music business. We became very fast friends, and Colette and I entertained them at the house a couple times, and then we went out. Whenever he played in anywhere in New York, we always got the call to come, and we'd be sitting with his family and enjoying it. San Francisco, we were starting to record that night at 11 o'clock at night, and Mitch came all excited. This is the tune he wanted to do first. And Tony said, no, I don't want to do that. So we did a different tune, another one of the four. We got that done. And no, I don't want to do Frisco.
Tony said that?
Yeah. So I don't want to do it now. So we did the third tune, got that done. By this time, Mitch is furious. He said, now you produce it. I am leaving. I'm not going to stay here any longer. I don't understand his attitude. So I said, okay. So we left, and I put the talkback mic down. Tony, it's you and me now. Let's go. So we did a take. Oh, that's great. That's great. I said, no, it isn't. It's not yours. Not yours. So I do another one. And finally, I said, let's go one more. I think you have it. We did the third take, and that was a take that you hear everywhere. And well, I never got credit for producing it, but it's okay. It made him a big hit. It's his favorite song, and he plays it everywhere he goes. So, but he's done some great albums and songs, just marvelous. And he's still out there, as you all know. He was here last year in Seattle.
Well, you got producer credit here. I gave you producer credit on our slide.
No, but that was fun. As I said, Tony and I became very close, and even all the sessions, when he come in for a playback, he would stand in front of the console and hear it, pay no attention to Mitch. Something, I don't know what was between them, but I was the one that would either tell him it's good or let's do another one, and he'd say, okay, and I didn't do that to take Mitch's responsibility away, but that's the way it went, and it was, for me, it was a great feeling, really.
So was that after the San Francisco? Because you essentially produced that one, so maybe he valued your opinion from then on.
Tony?
Yeah.
No, I still, when Tony left, then you saw Tio Macero was involved, and there it was more pronounced that he listened to me rather than Tio, but, you know, it wasn't in my
Yeah.
attitude to do that to anyone.
No. Well, let's listen to the song.
Yeah, that's a great arrangement.
The loveliness of Paris. Your golden sun will shine for me.
Well, you just nailed
First
it.
thing I want to point out, if you haven't noticed, the lyrics, you hear them and you understand them. You don't hear that anymore. The so-called singers today don't know how to articulate. And they worked at it, every one of them in that particular period of time. They worked at this diction, make sure that you understood what they were saying. And I miss that in the records of today. Even on television, I can't understand a word they say. But anyhow, that was one of them. I don't know how many albums I've done with Tony, but every one of them was a pleasure. I really enjoyed them.
There's a nice discussion of the making of that track in the Mix Magazine Classic Tracks by Dan Daly, and that's the URL there. If you just Google the song, you'll get that as one of the responses, one of the hits. One thing about it though is that the vocal that was used on that was not the U49, it was the M49, because there was no
Oh, yeah.
U49 apparently. And it was a Scully 8-track recorder, Dan said, in an article, and there's Tony with the,
There, you always ask me, how close is the mic? Take a look. Oh, yeah, you have it right here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can look this way.
The voice needs some air to make it be right. If you put a microphone in your mouth, I don't understand why that's done, except on the road, big concerts, okay, but not when you're recording.
And you could really hear that reverb effect
Oh,
in that
yes.
song.
Yeah,
Could you hear that?
Very well.
That was pretty cool.
that's it, Jeffrey.
Man, it's so interesting because when Frank came in the mobile truck and Bob had just bought.
You're talking to the mic.
Sorry. We held the 2 meetings ago at a record store in West Seattle, and the mobile truck's sitting outside. And so we could only fit so many people in the mobile truck at a time. So I'm like, okay, we'll go out to pubs and have a pint or the record store or whatever. Well, Bob actually was in the record store and bought a couple of CDs that Frank had recorded. And this was completely unscripted. And so Dan and Bob was in the same group, and I can't remember who else was in there with you, but Frank, of course. And so they're in here, and I'm like, hey, do you guys have anything you want to play in here just to listen to the sound of the mobile truck? Well, I was like, yeah, I just bought a couple of records in the store. Pop these out. So I popped it in, and Frank's like, oh yeah, I recorded that. And I was like,
Yeah, this was Miles, Smiles, and Porgy and Bess.
that's exactly what it was, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Frank.
I
Oh
recorded
yeah, I did that. We're all going, oh my God.
Yeah, so it was quite something.
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
it was really special. So here is how you did the strings.
Oh, yes, yeah,
Layout. You want to talk about that?
sort of like, yeah.
Yeah, this is again the hack artist translation of description.
Yeah.
So
All right, the rhythm section,
same
same
pattern.
place, the percussion close by also. And then there's the string section.
And you had the mics at the ends. Again, the mics are at the center facing out, but they're not centered on the
No.
strings. They're on one end. Why is that?
Well, because the sound's coming this way when they play.
Because that's why it works, how it works better.
And, yeah, that's why I
If you
put
did
it
it in the
there.
center, it wouldn't work as well.
Yep.
Cool.
Going back to the old days when we went to 30th Street and we only had 6 microphones. And there was a chorus, say with Tony Bennett, with this arrangement. And I didn't have a microphone for the chorus. So what I had done then, there's platforms behind the violin section up above, and I picked the chorus up on the violin microphone, and it worked so great. So that was one of the little things I did in the early part of the time.
And you put the vocal down next to the piano with a baffle.
Yes. Well,
Behind.
for the same thing, so that he's in touch with the rhythm section and any other soloists that might be close by, guitars. Yeah, it worked for me. I don't know what anyone else would do, but I couldn't be more comfortable.
And baffles behind each of the string sections
Yes,
as
yeah.
well.
Again, not tight,
Right.
just back.
Yeah. And that was an interesting thing to me about working this out with you, is discovering how you had the rhythm section in essentially the same position at every session. And you have 3 hours to do this thing. You're not going to start from scratch. You're going to do what works and get it done and get the session over with.
Yeah,
And that was
before we could
interesting.
try other parts of the studio, and this, in my mind, was the best setup. Other engineers use different parts of the studio, which is fine. That's why we're all
Different people.
we're different people, right?
And just to clarify, this is how I drew this, but how far is this distance between the rhythm section and the control room? How far are they from the wall,
Oh,
roughly?
well, the wall and maybe another foot or 2 in front of it.
Oh, so real
Very
close to the
close,
wall.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think that also helped the bass sound.
How tall was the baffle?
The baffles were
behind
out
the
here,
piano
maybe.
and singer, separating him from the violin.
So this baffle over
Oh,
here,
that is one of those large ones that
it's a
we
tall one.
showed earlier.
So when you saw earlier, there was a picture of Sarah Vaughan with a
Right.
big baffle behind her,
Yeah.
similar to that.
And how reflective is the wall by the control room, and did you use that to reinforce for the other mics that were around there, do you think?
Well, okay. I found that's why I liked, especially for the drummer, that he could hear himself, the sound coming back to him. And the bass player always enjoyed it also. And that's why I continued. I never thought it worthwhile after so many years to start changing on the musicians themselves. And as I said earlier, I think that I would talk to them every time, make sure that they're comfortable, because we're not using headphones, and they had to hear themselves. So it worked, obviously. Yep.
All right, next we're going to listen to a Sinatra track,
Oh, yeah.
which originally was on the Sinatra Trilogy album, which was actually 3 discs together. There was a past album, music of the past, music of the present, music of the future. And the particular song we're going to listen to was on the middle one, the music of the present. But what we're going to listen to is one that was actually on the Hear Music compilation called Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. It's an Opus Collection reissue. And they told me they don't do any messing around with the mastering. They don't remaster it. So what we hear should be what was on the original. We don't have all the money in the world, so we didn't go out and buy all these albums, although Bob actually bought a bunch of these. Bob has all the money in the world.
We're all right now.
So what we're going to listen to is this track 16, New York, New York. And before we start on that, let's talk a little bit about, well, let's listen to it first and then talk about it. So we're going to listen to the Hear Music thing that got released in 2005 from the original album that was recorded on September 19th, 1979. Frank Sinatra vocals, Don Costa, arranger conductor.
Start spreading the news. New York.
Ah, yeah. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, really. You want to talk a little bit about working with
Yeah.
Frank and then about the process of how these records happen?
Well, listen, Sinatra was Sinatra. I admire that man from the time he's 90 pounds until he passed away. And for me, I am like a school kid. I was so excited when I finally was going to record Frank Sinatra. And we hit it off beautifully, because we're both Italian boys from immigrant parents. And I don't say that's why but I felt that way. And we recorded that song. I have recorded that song with other artists, and nothing happened. But he took it and made it into a big, big hit. And was he a nice person? Absolutely. Of course, he was older then too. But it was a joy to work with him.
Now, when you do a Frank Sinatra record recording, you do the recordings, and what happens to them then?
Oh, yes, right. That's a good point. Yes, I did that same word again. The live recording. No, nothing else, just that. But Frank owned his own label at the time, Reprise, and all the work that we did at 30th Street was then sent out to the West Coast. And then they made their decision about the tunes and the takes. And Frank also would redo the tune that he thought he could do better on. And I think we have an example to show you that. And we'll let you hear. You heard this one. This was the original.
Yeah.
Let them hear the other first.
That's getting ahead of us a little bit. The point of this is that you do these tracks and send them off to California.
Yes.
And what happened in California,
I
who
don't
knows
know.
what happens? What you used may be in there,
Yeah.
what you used may not be in there. What you did may be in there, and what you did may not be in there.
No,
And
that's true.
There's no way to know
That's true.
with a Sinatra record what part of it was
That's right.
came from where.
Same old thing, you know, that they certainly didn't call me to tell me, look, we're not going to use this one, we're going to use that one. So we just, who's going to argue? It's
Yeah.
his money.
Yeah.
And but I've noticed differences myself in his vocals at times. I could tell, at least I think I can.
And this session was laid out pretty much the same as the Tony Bennett. So this is the same.
With more
Diagram
more,
is the
more
t-
musicians.
Yeah.
As you can see.
Yeah, way more players. And there was a horn section too that we didn't put in
Right.
here, but
Right.
lots of stuff
That
happened.
was another thing. When I used to had French horns in the orchestra, you all know that the horn sound comes out the back end, and whenever I could, if it was two or three, they didn't have to sit right with the trumpets and trombones. I would put them in the back. I used one of the baffles with a hard surface, and I put the mic so I would get the sound of the horns plus the bounce back of the hard surface of the screen.
So in front of them, facing back towards the
Yeah.
reflected sound.
Yeah, I would put it right behind them.
Oh,
It's an
interesting.
interesting sound.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right. So what we started to talk about is that in the course of this project, we got this other CD, which is current, came out in 2008, Sinatra, Nothing But the Best, that has that same track on it, New York, New York. But it's a totally different sound, as you'll hear in a second here. It was remastered. The Sinatra family is in charge of all of that, all of the Sinatra music now. And remastered by Bernie Grundman, who is a famous and fabulous mastering engineer. But so leaving this at the same volume.
Yeah, it's important. It's gonna be the same volume as the last one. We're not touching it, but you're gonna hear that it's been touched. It's had a lot more compression and limiting applied to this one.
Start spreading the news. New York.
And I'll tell you, when we played the CDs as opposed to the computer thing, it seemed like the difference was even more pronounced in the volume levels. So Bob went in and has the capability of looking at the volume envelopes of the songs. And why don't you start? Do you want to talk about this? This is the original.
All right. Look at the overall envelopes up here, and you see that this has been brought up a bit, but it's only lightly hitting the 0 dB. It's only hitting a limiter lightly, and but it's fairly loud. But there's some dynamics still being left in this, like right there. Thank you. You know, we've got some buildings, some crescendos, some dynamics left in here. Now go to the next one.
Yeah, and if you were at our last meeting, you know what these things mean.
Okay,
So-
this is the remastered one, or the one from Reprise. Notice that the same region that we were talking about, some dynamics, there's not very much left in this one. And it's been really maximized, compressed, limited. And of course, there was a different reverb sound in the whole thing. That was what they did with the vocals. So what we did was we cut these two together. You can see the comparison between the two. And are we going to do the cut together one?
Yeah, let's do the cut together one. And just so you're clear what you're looking at here, here's the beginning of the song, and here's the end of the song, and here's everything that happens in between. So these are volume levels that go up and down and compare. So you're comparing exactly the same slice in each song if you look vertically. So like here, there's quite a bit of distance from 0, and here it's really close.
And there are a couple of differences between the two songs before we play them. The one version, there's only 2 hits on the drums before we start into the music. The other one, there's 3 hits, and one of them is 2 seconds shorter than the other. So it took a little bit to bring these together. We have brought the gains down and up to try and make them blend together, and what you'll really be able to tell now is not so much the volume changes, but the timbral changes. You should be able to really hear the reverb changes. It cuts from one to the other. And do we have that picture that shows where the cuts are?
These are the only pictures I have, I think.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, then you can, about every 30 seconds, it's going to go from one version to the next.
Yeah, that
Starting
was-
with the old one, Bob. The old
Starts
Yes,
with the old
sorry.
one first, then we go to the new style, and anybody who wants to see all the little manipulations it took to get the two to cut together, they can come up here afterward.
So are these examples of 2 different performances or just 2 different mastering techniques?
This, well, that's a good question. There's no way to know that.
It sounds like they're
We got a
most
buzz.
of the same performances,
That's what I
but there's some differences.
Tell you what,
Yeah.
we'll play with that and we'll look later because I don't want to listen to Buzz.
Yeah, what Bob did was very cleverly shift back and forth, and maybe we can do a hand signal or something to show when
As we're going, okay, I'll do
as we're
that.
changing. So we're going to start with the original, then shift over to the other one.
We
and then-
think it's a new Sinatra vocal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds
That's
like
what
there's
it
an
was.
spring edition set up overdubs and newer ones.
You listen and then you see what you think. So it's a lot more subtle to my ear than you would think, but it's still different.
And you're behind the speakers too, so
That's
Well,
great.
but I listened to it before. I didn't listen to it just now.
Nice editing, Bob.
Didn't he do an awesome job? I mean, it was what was sounded radically different sounded much more similar.
Yeah, it's a difference in level and different echo,
Hmm.
and some of his diction was different in the second version, being a New Yorker, and you folks aren't, but a lot of New Yorkers don't pronounce the R as New York, and if you listen to the second take, you hear that, New York, so, but But, you know, what the hell, what's the difference? I just like my sound better anyway.
Yeah, yeah. We also noticed that was it the strings or the saxes moved from one side to the other
Yeah,
at some point. That was pretty interesting.
right.
But that was a mixing choice of somebody.
Yeah, that fellow Grunman, whatever his name was.
Well, he was the mastering guy, but somebody could have taken the raw tracks
Someone else,
and done a remix
yeah.
too. But you don't know, it's kind of like sausage. There's a lot of little pieces in there. Yeah, Rick?
Was this multi-track?
Was that a multi-tracked recording?
Which,
The Columbia session, was that multi-track? In '79 it must have been.
oh yeah, it was multi-track.
Yeah.
16, I think, at that time.
16 tracks.
Yeah. But you know, that song was recorded by so many other people. In fact, I recorded it a half dozen times with other artists, including Liza Minnelli, and never sounded, and nothing happened to it. And Sinatra did it. I mean, you can hear that. It's
Magic.
oh yeah, it was the last big hit he ever had. I'm glad I was part of it. And at this point in his life, he was just like you and I, a nice person. Very, very polite, very kind. Hugged me. You know, we did that usual Italian bit where we hug each other, we kiss each other, and there we are.
Was that when Mia Farrow was around?
Pardon?
Was Mia Farrow around at that
Never.
time?
He never had anyone
Huh.
come. Never.
Huh.
He absolutely refused. I even asked if my wife could come, and they turned me down. He said no.
So it was a closed
It's
studio?
always just he. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know what else we.
Yeah, we've reached the end of our prepared presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Go to the
Oh, there he is again. Ken,
I
why'd
was
you
speaking
let him
up
in?
too much. So, just for everyone in the room, if you ever have the guts to play anything that you've recorded for Frank, make sure it's got the room sound in it. Yeah. Because I was brazen enough to play something that I recorded, just voice the guitar, and he's like, was that guitar DI? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How close was the vocal mic? Pretty close. He's like, yeah, don't like it.
Well, he was more polite than that. I was there.
I wasn't trying to hurt him.
No, you were very polite.
He asked me a question and I answered it. That'll teach you not to ask.
I wanted to know.
But that is something about Frank, is that there's no BS when you're talking to him.
Which is good.
It's straight ahead, and that's been awesome. Any other questions or comments before we call it a night? Go ahead. Talk into the mic, please.
I will say that the version of New York, New York that you did had a much better bass sound. You actually hear the string against the fretboard, against the board, and it's far better. It wasn't rolled off and kind of muffled in the back, and I appreciate that as a musician.
Thank you. We heard that too, so that's why we thought we'd use it as a demonstration, so that you hear one version as opposed to the other.
I was just curious if you had any occasion, or if your schedule allowed opportunity to get to know some of the other people that were involved with as many recordings as you were. Like, I think of maybe the Bill Putnams of the world, or the Tom Dowds. Did you happen to get to know those guys, or did your schedules not even allow you to get to know them?
I only knew Bill Putnam because he was in the Chicago Columbia studio, and didn't have much to do. You know, we had California, Chicago, Nashville, New York, and everyone did their own. We had Epic Records. And the only reason we had Epic Records because Mitch Miller would not record rock and roll on Columbia. So they formed this new label called Epic, and that's where the rock stuff was done. So that was that. But I met Bill Putnam once when he came to New York City, but I had really no conversations at all. Very nice man. Did you know him?
No. Frank, didn't you spend time on the train though, in and out of New York with Tom Dowd?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Tom Dowd was one of the greatest creator of sound that ever started in the business. He, by himself in a little studio or a room, an office room, where he set up to record. And he didn't have a studio, they just put a mic and he started doing what he did. And then of course he kept progressing. He was a brilliant engineer and a nice man, very nice man. And when I was riding in on a train, I would bump into him, either coming or going, because he was working the same days I was. And I always enjoyed our conversations, and I learned quite a bit from him. So it's too bad that he didn't last long enough to make it a real tremendous reputation. Good boy.
Well, that's, the interaction between engineers is one of the good things about AES, is that when we're doing our thing, we're the only engineer there. And you don't get a chance to interact with other people, but then we have things like this where we can get together and chat and get to meet people, and this is a good
You
thing.
folks have made my life worthwhile being in this area, truly. And the two of you, I don't know how I can compliment you anymore, because they are the nicest two people I ever met. Very concerned, very warm, and honest in their thoughts and behavior. So I do thank the two of you from the bottom of my heart. And I don't know if Colette thanks you that well, but she always thought Bob was a nice fellow, and she just met you today. So
Yeah, well, she still likes me so far, so.
I hope she's going to say the same. And anyway, that's my bride here, and I've loved her forever. And without her, I probably would have been nothing. So
It's been really great having you here.
And when we get a copy, you'll hear that every time. Better behave.
Frank's going to walk out of here with a CD of this evening recording, and then of course if we do something with the video, we'll get you a copy of that too. But thank you all for coming, and have a safe
Listen,
drive
I
home.
thank you all for paying attention as much as you did. You're all very good. As I said, I never did this much. I hope you're leaving with having a little fun.
So thank you and good night.